we're a few minutes after, so let's get going. We are recording just like we record all of our meetings, and we'll post them up. So say what you will, I guess. It's nice to have a smaller collection today because we generally get to dig into specifics when there's fewer of us. So this is kind of nice. And actually, Peace, this might be your first time on this particular call. So if you don't mind, maybe do you want to introduce yourself to the rest of the folks on the call? And sometimes...
Hello, everyone. My name is Peace Kachi, but I use chassis on Slack platform. I'm still a junior developer, more like a newbie that is coming up.
And
nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. Coming up fast, I would say. You're having to you're having to make me think already about which issues are going to be interesting to you. So that's good. So not only Peace, very nice to have you on the call. You're in good company here with some other nice folks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've actually done some issues, but more like documentations.
Yeah, I think the first documentation issue, if I recall, that you took on here was not entirely simple, like with screenshots and on it.
Yes, that's actually my second.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
the first one was just a minor one on the footer. I had to change some stuff on the footer to current one.
Right. Yeah, that always, by the way, just as a side note, that always bugs me that that the year as it's listed gets out of date. I got to tell you, I've worked with a few attorneys whom I don't really like. They were really sticklers about the copyright year and what was listed. It's very annoying because technically, if it's a year old, your copyright is still current. Like the copyright is, those materials are still, the copyright carries for any number of years. So anyway, Peace, nice to have you. By the way, just for others on the call, Peace was saying that she goes by chassis or chassis, I guess, depending on how you enunciate it, as a username. And so you'll find her in Slack.
Yeah.
And then Peace, I'm trying to remember your GitHub username. It starts with code.
Yeah, code ebullient.
Code, a word I cannot spell. Yeah.
Ebullient.
Okay. And so just so that so that you know when you see her, because it took me a while to figure out that that Peace wasn't 3 different people.
So sorry for that.
No, it's fine. Peace, actually, it's nice that you and Ruth and, well, there's another young lady actually that joined, whose name I'll put into the chat. It's nice that all of you joined kind of at the same time for a couple different reasons, but one of those is that Fanji, Mr. Ricard, who's on the call right now, has been a long-standing community member, and he's been kind of holding down the fort, if you will, sort of being one of only a couple of people representing from your continent. And so it's nice. I think most of the time, I don't know that Fanji is in a position to be able to use his audio. And so a lot of times he'll end up catching up with folks in the chat. But since it's just a few of us today, I figured that it would be nice to get Fanji introduced to Peace. And then Ruth, thanks for coming as well. Ruth, you might have introduced yourself on this call before. I know you did it on the community one.
Yeah, last week.
I
Okay,
did.
so you're an oldie already. Okay. I figure, Ruth, if you haven't met Fonji, um, gosh, he's been in the community for like, I don't know, um, about a year, somewhere in there, and uh, and it's nice that he's helped welcome a couple of others from Africa as well. Um, but he's the only one that's seen it through, kind of stuck around. So
Hi, Fonji. Uh,
yeah,
Hello.
and look out for his chats in the Google Meet chat. A lot of times, Fungi's isn't in a place to do audio, but anyway, very nice to introduce you guys. I figured out that we would do that just to because um, because there's so many darn Indians running around here that it's nice to have some some other accents. I can only say that because it's Nikhil and Shriti that are on the call. So anyway, having made all of that very awkward, I figure we'll jump into the meeting minutes and well, talk about some stuff. See if we can talk about some code maybe. I'm going to paste the link to the meeting minutes in the chat, and if you're able to access them, please jump in and type away. You know, help with the minutes, or kind of slap your name down as well. A couple of topics that I tossed in just to get us going based on who I thought might be able to show. One of those is from Nikhil. And by the way, if anyone has topics, just drop them in. We'll let's talk about them. Topics might be something you're working on. It might be a question about the project. It might be a roadmap item. It might be a challenge that you're having. You know, whatever that ends up being. And so, Nikhil, do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, sure. But Lee, I guess I won't be able to share my screen, so you will need to share the screenshot for
Oh, nice. All right.
because
Sure.
my PC is currently in hang mode and I'm on my phone.
Sure. Let me grab it.
Yeah.
What is hand mode? Does that means that you've got like a laptop that will flip in? It's like a half tablet, half.
No, I said it's in hang mode, means it's not working. Hang. It's NG hang.
Oh, oh, I see. It's okay.
Huh. It has become unresponsive, to be
Yeah, very
specific.
good. It is hung.
Actually, the thing is, the RAM of it has two RAMs. One is inbuilt 4 GB and the other one external 16 GB has stopped working since past few weeks. So I've been struggling for a few weeks now with this laptop.
Wow. Okay. Man. Okay. Ouch. Well, very good. Can you guys see the screenshot?
Yeah.
Okay.
So sorry for showing the work like this, but I'm out of options. So yeah, recently we have been Kanishka actually has been working on creating performance test profiles. So he's almost done with the backend. So a front end was needed. So I was working on the front end part of it, and here it is. We are working on the performance test profiles. Means if a user wants to create a profile, means runs similar performance test again and again, then instead of going and typing the values and running the test again, which will become a kind of repetitive or monotonous task. So giving the user of freedom to create a profile, so that instead of typing the values again and running the test, he can just simply go to the profile section and run the test from there. So here is a new section added in the nav menu under performance tab, which is profiles, and it contains all the user profiles for a particular user, in which the top one, the test one, is the test ID, which will be in the future, and below that we can add a description like the mesh on which the performance is being running. And other than that, we have two buttons. One of them will be a future implementation, which is a scheduled test, so that the user can schedule a test later on by putting on some time, like after a few hours or regularly at a particular time, something like that. And beside it, it's a run test button, on which, if on clicking that, the test will run considering the values which he has set for the profile. But if a user wants to change his profile, means update, considering that, okay, I want to keep the mesh same, the other value same, I only want to change the time for the test runs. So he can take use of the edit button that I have added to change the profile and update the values, and then on again run the test from there itself. So it is not completed. It's just the front end which has been ready. It's still left to merge the front end and the back end. The middleware part is left. Yeah.
Very good, very good. And so the reason that we're showing this today is because this is just a mock-up that Nikhil has, this screenshot that we're sharing, and to be able to walk through it, explain it, and get feedback from others. I suspect not everyone has the right context. Nikhil, if it's okay, let me give a little bit of that context, and then I probably have a couple of questions for you.
Oh yeah, sure. No
Okay.
issues.
Let me and by the way, Tinkai, thanks for coming. This is
Hi, Lee.
hey, this this particular item might be of interest to you. Well, or it's a you might have an opinion, I guess, is the yeah. So so I'll say this, that each of you have begun to get familiar with. Some of you are very familiar with Meshery, and others are just beginning. But as you run Meshery, you've begun to get kind of familiar with this landing page, which totally needs to change. It's not horrible, but this should not be the landing page. Anyway, part of the functionality of Meshery is that you get to run performance tests to evaluate how well your service mesh is running, how responsive your services are, the services that are running on top of the mesh. And when Meshery, and as you're running those tests, it might be that you've got different types of tests. So like your weekly SOAP test for the Acme service or something. And hey, that was, I heard that chuckle. That was, anyway, and so you point, you end up pointing Meshery at your services endpoint, like whatever URL that ends up being. Right now, Meshery is only capable of generating HTTP traffic, but soon, hopefully, it'll be gRPC and NATs, a couple of other wow. Sorry, we have, I don't know if you guys can hear the cat in the background, but it must be hungry. Won't shut up. HTTP, gRPC, and NATs. And anyway, the point is, the longer that we go on, the more options come onto this page. And some of these options can get pretty involved. I'm trying to randomly think, off the top of my head, like just, there can be quite a bit of, maybe you're sending a JSON payload in here and you're doing a post and etc. And a couple of issues, this is good. Although as a user who's doing this once a week, well, one, you got to come in here every week and type all this crap in. It would be nice if you could just fill in the form, and maybe at the bottom you can click run test, or you can click save profile, meaning that you can save this and recall it later so you don't have to type it all in. In the future, you might also want to schedule the test. And so those capabilities are being worked on the back end, and some of them are more or less completed. So Nikhil is working on exposing those new features in the UI somewhere. And so there's a new concept to come forth, the concept that we're calling this is a performance test. That's the page that we're on. This is an individual performance test. You can invoke it and have it run. That concept of the ability to save this performance test profile, that's the terminology that we're using to refer to that. You would be able to save this as a performance test profile and give it a name. Maybe that name is the same thing. And so right now we have this page that we're on. You can pull up results from previous tests that you've run, look at them and examine them. You can compare them. I think and as a matter of fact, Peace was recently helping update our documentation so that people can interpret what all this means. And by the way, this is great info, but it's presented in not the most digestible way. So we're looking at bringing forth performance test profiles. So here's the mock-up from Nikhil to capture more or less the functionality we were just talking about. So he's looking at bringing forth a new menu item, a sub-menu item of performance called profiles. I'm going to make some commentary as we go through here, I guess. So to me, that seems appropriate. Like there's going to be a fair bit to do around this new profiles construct, this new capability. Any construct, any like a profile or like a result, those are nouns. They're objects inside of, logical objects, logical constructs inside of Meshery. And as such, almost any construct, almost any object, we will want to support Crud operations. And Crud is an acronym for create, read, update, delete. Crud. Create, read, update, delete actions on an object. So we want for users to be able to create a performance test profile, read them, update them, delete them. And so here's a perspective on what the user interface would look like for creating and reading and updating and deleting performance test profiles. So Nikhil.
Yeah.
So the thought is, here is the name of the performance test profile, like the weekly Acme test I was typing in.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, and I guess that's kind of a question right there, is like, hey, does it make sense to you and to others on the call that the name of the profile, the performance test profile, would likely be one and the same as the name that someone would give to an individual test here? To me, it does. Think about it. If you think that they need to be separate, say something. I think that in the data, in the back end, the metadata that we're tracking about a performance test and a performance test profile, these should be two independent fields, because people are still going to come in and they're going to run individual tests and they're going to give it a name, or maybe they don't. And when they don't, we're going to auto-generate a name for them. Now they may choose to use the exact same string, the exact same value here as they would inside of a profile, and that's fine. That makes some intuitive sense, especially if they're filling in the form here, and at the bottom of it, they say, well, I'd like to save this as a profile if they've got a button here. But the way that we store the data, I think probably needs to be two separate fields.
But in the case of the name, profile name, means on creating a profile, we are getting back a test ID, which I guess is the profile ID, as I can understand from the APIs which Kanishka made. So if then we have to use that ID or that test ID to means run the test. So I was thinking of using that ID itself for the profile name, but I guess it will be a randomly generated ID, so it won't suit the user's need or requirement to keep that as the name.
Right. Right. I think having every single performance test that's run does, given that we're going to capture that result, it does need to have a unique identifier by which we, track the result, like as a unique result. Here, to your point, let's give a quick example of if you run a performance test. If I don't give it a name, and I'm running linkerd here, maybe I'm just gonna ping. I don't know. Maybe I'm not gonna test something on the mesh, but just something remote. I didn't give it a test name. It, like to Nikhil's point, it will auto-generate a name, and which ends up being, pretty hideous. If we did this again and I didn't choose a service mesh, maybe I'm like, hey, I'm not going to test the mesh. I'm going to test Google. I'll go ahead and test, my connection to Google. It will fill it in with no mesh. It was trying to at least do something about, helping with making the randomly generated IDs a little bit more intuitive. I think this is just a timestamp, I'm assuming, because it doesn't look like a date. But
no, I don't think it's a timestamp. It's just a randomly generated from the library function.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, when we go over to results, that what was otherwise intended to be a friendly name, a friendly display name, if they didn't type in one, it ends up being kind of an ugly one. They can still tell maybe which test it is based on the time or some other attributes of the test itself. The other attributes, they can click. Let's see, that's too bad. Nikhil, this is one of the things that we still haven't figured out yet. People should be able to click the details here to retrieve some additional info. Now, I've yet to figure out, Nikhil, I worked with Ayush on this a little bit, but we've yet to figure out where this bug is coming in. But
Means sometime it's not coming up, right? It's redirected to the 404 page.
Right. So let me refresh the browser just in case. That doesn't have an effect. I think it's a fairly simple fix. I think that what's going on, I believe the reason that this is coming back successfully is because it's that test ran and it produced it produced a bunch of statistics, and it has those, and it can tell us about the load profile of that test. What it should also show on the right-hand side that's missing is information about the environment, meaning information about Kubernetes and the number of nodes that I have and their memory and their CPU. And when I ran this particular test, I wasn't connected to Kubernetes, so it just skipped it, and I think it's fine. It just leaves it blank. It didn't have it, so it doesn't display it. But here, right here and now, as I ran both of those tests, I am connected to a Kubernetes instance. And so it does try to read information about Kubernetes and save it. And I think that that has something to do with why we're experiencing this issue. So, Nikhil, we don't have to debug right now, but this is something I'm hoping you might be able to have a look at.
Yes. Yeah, I will look into it, sure.
Okay, so sorry. So going back though, does anyone have comments on Nitish's or on Nikhil's design? So I'll keep talking through it a little bit, and then just interrupt me if you do. So there's the display name for the profile that they would have typed in. This might be the unique an actual ID of a unique identifier for the profile.
Yeah.
Okay. They might come over and the user, instead of going to clicking on performance, they might just click on profiles and invoke a test from here, because it might be that they already know all the details of that profile and they don't need to look at it. They just want to run the test. To me, this makes sense. They can just select it, run the test. They might want to, we don't have this ability right now, but in the future, they're going to want to schedule the test. And that's great. And so we, the next UI would be a calendar, a date picker. The edit button.
Another thing I was hoping for means, just as you said, that if the user knows what the profile is about, and instead of going and typing again, he can just simply run the test. But in case he may wants to see that, okay, there were two profiles, I created of same mesh, but just the time is different for both of them. So I just want to confirm which one is which. So I was hoping to add a eye icon, I eye icon,
Uh-huh.
just beside the edit button or somewhere there in the card, so that the user can simply see the details of the test which he is going to, or he can simply click on the edit button to see that. Either of them, whichever you suggest. I think if we add eye icon, then it will be much, means the output will be very much similar to the edit button. So we can do one thing, that we can add an eye icon to view the details, and we can put the edit icon inside the eye modal, which will be coming to show the test details, and from there the user can edit the profile.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Having that quick view icon in the shape of an eye could quickly display a read-only modal on this same page, and it would display the exact same info that clicking on the edit button does, except the edit button takes them into a new page, probably that looks exactly like this page. And yeah, those two operations can make some sense. I mean, now there's another component to this, and that is, the correlation between a profile and actual test results. And so the ability to filter test results based on that we're all from the same test profile, that's potentially something to consider here. And I could see where, if there is that quick view icon with the eye, that people might expect that doesn't show them a read-only view of the details of the profile, but rather it shows them all the test results associated to that profile, potentially.
Okay.
So
Maybe that's possible, but if we means it depends on the icon. If we provide an icon like something like a bar graph or something, then the user may think of a result thing. Means it shows a result. But if we provide a quick V icon like an eye, then I don't with a tooltip showing view the details of the profile. Then I don't think the user may assume something like that. I mean, I'm not sure. That's my perspective.
yeah, nope. I'm like this. I don't know if you guys can see this one here, like that. To me, and I think to most users, that one generally indicates that it's a quick view thing. That like, yeah, you can see it, right? The eye.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, fair enough. Maybe Nikhil, if it's okay, does anyone else have comments for Nikhil and on this topic? Because there's other things we should get to.
I assume when it will be much more means it will start working, then the people will have more questions.
Right. Yeah, good point. And Nikhil, I agree with what your assessment, by the way, on like, hey, if the that quick view icon is popular enough that you would expect that people wouldn't have a difficult time interpreting the fact that if they click that, they would get a quick view, while if they click some other link, that they would get all of the results filtered based on that profile.
Good.
Nice. Nikhil, there are some, I'll suggest that maybe there's an easy way of kind of starting on that functionality. And that would be just by adding a save as profile button on the existing performance page. And then that way,
Okay. Means the profile will be get downloaded as a JSON format.
well, or on the performance page itself, when on the performance test page, if there's a save as profile button, like that's kind of an easy way of you beginning to expose this capability in a small way, and also being able to test that the back end is working like it should in terms of creating a test profile.
Yeah. Got it.
Nice. Okay. Other topics that we have today. I have things to bring up, but I'll ask if anybody has something they want to chat about.
So it's not something serious, but I just want to make a comment on how it has been for me contributing. It's quite a welcoming community, and I really appreciate that. Like even with my little contributions, which are not code related, its community has been welcoming, and it's really great. Feels great. Yeah.
Good. That is more of a that says a lot more about Nikhil and Fanji and others here than it does about me. Nice. Yeah, that's good. And Ruth, actually, for as nice as it is to hear something like that, I'll also ask you to think critically if you can. Like if there was any point in the process that wasn't entirely smooth, or that could have been, if there are no doubt ways to improve, kind of welcoming others and getting them engaged, and some of that process is just manual, I guess is the way of saying it. Like some of that process is, spending the time to be able to get to know folks and understand what they're interested in and welcome them in and make them feel comfortable. But if there are, and that is hard to do because there's a lot of pressing priorities. So one, that's in part why we created the Meshmates program to recognize that there are people that have been here for a long time. So Nikhil is a Meshmate, and to recognize that people like Nikhil have all kinds of things to share with others, and that we need for there to be an onboarding program like that because of the rate by which people come in. It hasn't been quite this way this week, but I think Shriti, it's been like between 2 and 3 folks a day, I think last week, maybe some of the weeks before. And so it's really tough to keep up with.
Yeah, about that.
And so Ruth, any amount of critical feedback is helpful too.
Okay. So I would suggest, okay, I could take up the role of keeping track of who comes into the Slack chat, because some people, as you know, personalities differ. Some people wouldn't want to reach out first, so I would I could take up the role of monitoring who comes into the Slack chat, then reach out to ask, okay, what aspects do you want to help with before they join the Meshmate program? I don't know if you get my point. Yeah,
totally.
so I could just do that this week and see how far it would go. Like, yeah.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, like even if you only got so far as just to say, and actually I think Ruth, you already did, which I thought was amazing. You already welcomed someone new that joined, which is perfect. Yeah, I mean, like even if all you're doing is just saying hi and we're glad you're here and introduce yourself, or hey, here's a link to the newcomer's guide, just something as small as that. I gotta think, I gotta believe like that really does feel good to people, even though like, yeah, half the time they won't respond, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's very true. It's like for some people can be shy to. Some people just come in and just stay. They won't actually, even after the bot says, okay, say hello, introduce yourself. Some people don't actually like introduce themselves. So I think if we could have one person, which I am up for that task, reaching out, it would it would be more welcoming. Yeah. So
Yeah, please. That's fantastic. It would be nice if we had. Oh, if there was. And Nikhil knows this well. There's a bot in the Slack workspace that we have. It's called GreetBot is the name of the bot, and you and Peace will probably remember that when you first joined, it sent you a message on a private message. But there's a couple of issues. Like I think that it's kind of easy to overlook that message, in part because it sends it to you right away. So I think we backed it off recently to maybe wait like a few minutes and then send it. But even at that, it comes from a bot, so it's not. Sometimes people overlook those things. And the other issue with it is that it doesn't notify people like Ruth. Like it would be nice if the GreetBot sent you or others that want to welcome people a quick ping to say, oh, this person just joined, rather than, that being an activity that you have to go do.
oh, that would be cool too.
If you think about it and you have some time, if you find a better solution or a better bot or a different way of doing that, because this GreetBot, it won't do that. Like it's pretty limited. then if you find something better, let's try that, because it is kind of one of those shared responsibilities. And yeah, because it's kind of nice when someone joins that they almost right away get welcomed. We don't want to smother them, but we don't want to wait like a day and then say, oh, by the way, thanks for joining, because it's sort of an afterthought. Thanks for mentioning this, Ruth. Like that's, yeah, please, it's really helpful. The thing that we most often do is send them a link to this doc because it's just got a lot of resources in it. And to your point, like a lot of it does have to do with personality. Even in this document here, it will say like, oh, you should, familiarize yourself with these things, and, go ahead and, request access to the community drive so that you can, get access to a bunch of materials and resources. There are only so many people that feel comfortable enough, like when they click on this link and it says, oh, you don't have access, click here to request access. There's only so many people that feel comfortable like clicking to request that. And so, we'll say in here, like, if you don't have access, request it. But so I don't know. Anyway, it's a bunch of, we've given this a lot of thought, and there's still room for improvement. So, yeah. Okay. Other topics. That was a good one. Here's, well, I guess like there's a couple. Tinkai, I want to chat with you about Kuma and the adapters and things, but I know it'll take longer than the 9 minutes that we have. So I was.
Yeah, I'm available for now. Yeah, I'm able to talk about the Kuma adapter.
Okay, thanks.
I just think it's better that we can have Abhishek
Totally
together. Yeah.
Totally. It might be one of those things. Maybe we.
I'm good. I got it.
Maybe we either need a different meeting or just if this meeting time works for him. Either way.
Yeah, I see he responded your message in the channel, but he didn't jump in the call. But I'm available these days, like today, tomorrow. So if like we can schedule a meeting like with Abhishek sometime today or tomorrow, if that works for him.
Nice. Okay. Good.
Hi, Lee. So this is Adiola, everyone. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know if this is in place already, but I'm thinking like newcomers, like people that just joined, if there's maybe like a day scheduled to just like show them the like how would I put it? Show them the workings of Meshery and everything, like an hands-on session. So they can just build up on that afterwards, and then with their meshmates, they can have one-on-one sessions. But like if we have a lot of contributors coming in newly, so maybe like 5 contributors or 10, like a 1 hour session, introducing them to the different projects that layer 5 is doing, like just basic knowledge. Then they can just build on that with their meshmates, and through that they can identify what kind of project interests them, and find out how they can contribute more. So I think that will help.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know that anyone has suggested that before, but yeah, it's like a recurring welcome to the community and introduction to the projects, kind of a recurring call that that anyone could join. Nice. Yeah, right. That is the more or less the thing that a meshmate is doing on a one-on-one basis, which also means there's probably room for doing it on a 1-on-5 basis, or however many people show up for something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, as we go to partner with that makes a ton of sense, particularly as we go to partner with other coding programs, that like because that would be a point in time in which it's possible that 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people come in at the same time, which then becomes very much so worth doing, just holding a general session. I guess I don't know if I had asked some of you if you're in. I know for you, Adiola, that you're studying in the U.S. right now, right, at a university.
Yeah.
Okay.
University of Arkansas.
In Arkansas, nice. Yeah, I thought it was humid here in Austin, in Texas, but you've probably got it pretty bad.
No, I was in Austin in March. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit more green where you are, I suspect. Anyway, the thing is that I was going to ask Ruth and Peace, are you guys in programs now, like either a coding program or doing school?
I myself, I'm in kind of internship, coding internship,
Gotcha.
more veer towards front end, React routes.
Oh, nice. Okay. Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of React happening here. So, the reason I was asking is because, yeah, if there's an influx of more than a few people at one time, like this is a good idea to have recurring sessions. All right, one final topic before we wrap up for the day, and that is that, well, it's a little bit of maybe a challenge to lay down. And this is the notion that on our docs site, Treaty is taking on the challenge of sort of thinking about its layout and a number of bits of information that we're missing, restructuring some things, etc., which is much needed. And one of the things that she's identified is that Meshery has, there are many releases, and over time, the documentation is, needs to change in accordance with the release, in accordance with how things behaved at that time. And so you'll notice that there are any number of other sites. I'm just randomly using one, like here's an open source tool. Here's their site. The site that describes the tool and what it does is also serves as their documentation site, and they let you switch between different versions of the docs. And I think this site here runs on a very similar theme as to the one that we're using. You can tell like the font family is similar, the site search is similar. But the difference is, yeah, actually this is, it's all very similar, right? Like it's the same, it's actually literally two different themes. Theirs, I think, is Hugo compatible. Hugo is spelled like this if you haven't. And ours is Jekyll compatible. The Hugo version of this theme has this ability to switch between versions baked in, whereas the Jekyll version of this theme, our version, doesn't. And Shridi, do you mind finding that discussion that we were having with the theme creator and sharing that with Ruth and Peace to the extent that
Yeah,
they,
sure, I can share a link.
and I'm just kind of bringing up a topic as something that we have yet to solve. Not that you guys have to take it on, but it might be, it's a little bit of a brain tickler. I mean, it's a little bit of a challenge. Multiple. Okay. With that, any other comments today? Okay, good. So just to recap, like what I heard was, you know, we don't do a good job of welcoming people. And so we should probably, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Ruth. Good. It was a great call. I'm sorry that we talked as much as we did on the performance test profiles. There's kind of a lot to consider there, but hopefully that helps everyone get a little bit more familiar with Meshery as a tool. Well, I'll bite my tongue. There's a few announcements to talk about in the community, some things that have been some accomplishments to celebrate. I'll save those for Friday's call. But other than that, if no one has anything else, again, like I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say how pleased I am to that Fonji is in good company now. Okay. Anyway, I'll see you. We'll see you guys next week. Hopefully, we'll see you on the community call on Friday. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Bye all. See you later.